the house of the Lord with you this morning. Looking forward to sharing with you whatever the Lord leads me to share and say. They say you should always start with a story or a tale or something, and I'm a little out of practice, but I thought, well, talking about the boat, talking about being on the water, and Megan asked, what can I tell them about you before you go up there? I said, I don't know. So I'm from Prince Edward Island. I came, I saw, and I conquered, except I haven't conquered yet. I only came and saw, there's still a lot to see. But I was thinking about a good fishing story. Some people like fishing stories. I thought about my friend Matt that I went to high school with, and he was always the best at telling fishing stories. We used to drive motorcycles all the time, and he got in an accident one time tragically, and ended up losing his arm, his left arm. But he still always told the best fishing stories. Because whenever he came back from fishing, he'd say, hey, how'd it go, how'd it go? And he'd always say, I caught a fish this big. Okay. All right, let's check to see where we are this morning. I'll move right on to the benediction, and reading from the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 14, verse 22. Reading from the New King James Version this morning, it says, immediately Jesus made his disciples get into the boat and he would go before him to the other side, while he sent the multitudes away. And when he had sent the multitudes away, he went up to the mountain by himself to pray. And now when evening came, he was alone there, but the boat was now in the middle of the sea, tossed by the waves, for the wind was contrary. Now in the fourth watch of the night, Jesus went to them, walking on the sea. When the disciples saw him walking on the sea, they were troubled, saying, it's a ghost, and they cried out in fear. But immediately Jesus spoke to them, saying, be of good cheer, it is I. Do not be afraid. Peter answered him and said, Lord, if it is you, command me to come out to you on the water. So he said, come. And when Peter had come down out of the boat, he walked in the water to go to Jesus. But when he saw that the wind was boisterous, he was afraid. And beginning to sink, he cried out, saying, Lord, save me. And immediately Jesus stretched out his hand, caught him, and said to him, oh, you of little faith, why did you doubt? When they got into the boat, the wind ceased. Then those who were in the boat came and worshipped him, saying, truly you are the Son of God. When they had crossed over, they came to the land of Gennesaret. And when the men of that place recognized him, they set out to all the surrounding region, bringing to him all who were sick, and begged him that they might only touch the hem of his garment. And as many as touched it were made perfectly whole. Father, I do thank you for your word and truth that stands in it. You know where we are this morning. You know where we're coming from spiritually in all parts of our lives. I pray that you would just help us to focus our hearts and minds on you this morning for these few moments, that we have your word to study from, that your Spirit would open our hearts and minds to what you have for us, just simply and clearly to draw us closer to you, that we might walk in step with you, and even walk on water. We thank you, Lord, for this time. Quiet our hearts and minds and spirits before you as we learn from your word. Quite an interesting time here as the scene is set for Jesus and his disciples. Jesus was in the land there, and he was healing people and feeding the multitudes, performing great miracles, and the people were just in awe of what he was doing. And of course, as good word spread around, more and more people came to see him. Others brought their family members, stretched out the region to bring more and more until there was thousands of people gathered there by the lake shore, waiting for Jesus to heal, to teach, to feed, to provide, and to do all that he was doing for so many others. Well, the crowd had amassed itself so large, it was time to move on. Jesus told his disciples, okay, get in the boat, head up to the water. What? So you don't understand. It's going to get crazy here. This crowd is pressing in. They're going to want more. And what was going to happen is they were more than likely going to want to make him their leader, perhaps make him their king. You need to remember, they were still waiting for someone to come from on high to be an earthly king, to set things straight as they saw. And so Jesus, knowing the disciples, it would put them in a state of confusion and probably wouldn't help to the chaos of it all. He said, guys, just get in the boat, set out upon the water. I'll take care of the multitude of people here. So the disciples, doing what he said, they got in the boat, they took off and headed out. Jesus handled the people there, was talking with them, continuing to minister to them and work with them, until finally he got a chance where he was alone. Now, first thing we can learn through this is what Jesus did when he was alone. He went up on the mountain to pray. He went up the mountain to take some time with God. One of the hardest things we have to do in this day and age, and with all the technology and everything around us, is to stop. One of my soapboxes I get on is how I laugh at people. They say, oh, I got to text somebody to see if I can call them. See, I may be 45, but I still remember there was a day when you could just pick up the phone and you called somebody if you needed to talk to him. You didn't have to send him a message to say, can I talk to you? Communication, haven't we progressed just so tremendously? Now we don't even have to see anybody when we talk to them or listen to their voice. Crazy. Absolutely crazy. So Jesus is working and working with the disciples and doing all he can. He had to take that time to pray with God. Now, if Jesus was overwhelmed and tired and stretched to the limits and needed to take time to get alone with God, not just get together here or there with others, but to get alone with God, the Son of God, one of the Trinity, is saying, I need time alone with God. Who are we to possibly think that we are any stronger, any greater, any better, that we don't need time alone with God? Time to stop, time to listen, and time to pray. This is absolutely one of my favorite stories, and I set the scene there. It's probably springtime, things are starting to green up. It's close to the Passover time. Jesus is getting them all out there. The storms are starting to surge, and I absolutely love Peter. Peter's one of those disciples that I just adore because he's always acting on impulse. Do you ever know somebody who was able to talk and discuss something, go right along with it, and all of a sudden, squirrel. Oh, I'm sorry. I get carried away there. I'm not going to ask for a show of hands, but we know those people, or might possibly be those people. Might possibly be those people. Remember Peter, the hole in the garden, take up the sword, cut off the soldier's ear? He didn't exactly think that out or plan it on his daytimer. He acted on impulse. Many of the things that Peter did, and many of the mistakes that Peter made, it was because he acted on impulse. But he had that love and passion for Christ. He just wanted to go and do. We can't fault him for having that passion in his life. We can't fault him for wanting to make a difference for Christ. In his heart and in his mind, it was always about loving God. It really was. When Peter acted, it was for loving God. When he said, let's go out there and get him, it was because he loved Christ. When he said, I won't deny you, it's because he loved Christ. When he jumped out of the boat, when he did whatever he did, it was because he loved Christ. Now, he might have faltered, but he loved Christ. So here he is, the people are restless, Jesus up in the mountain, he's had some time to pray, they're all on the boat, and he looks down, and what does he see? The ship being tossed about. How many of you ever gone deep sea fishing, or out in deep waters, big rough waters? I see those. When I was in college, I used to take some students back home with me, and we go deep sea fishing. We get a few miles out off the coast, and you look one way, and all you see is a wall of water higher than the boat, and it's rocketing up, and then all of a sudden it shifts, and you look the other way, and you're up in the air, and all you see is land, and about 2 miles off, it gets pretty rough out there. You'll be walking along, a boat can meet you, your foot, you're reaching and stretching for one, and then the ship comes up, and then next time your knee hits you in the chin. They get pretty rough. So Jesus, seeing the disciples out there, says, I'm going to go to them. So he does. He sets out in that watch and heads down to them and walks out. Now, I don't know about you, but if I saw somebody walking on water, I might be a little alarmed as well. And so what are they? It's a ghost. They don't know what's going on. This man's coming out of the water. But then he said, behold in his eye, don't be afraid, it is me. And they realize him, and then there's Peter. Let me come out of the water. Let me get out of the boat. So he says to Jesus, if you just merely ask me to or say it, I can come out of the water, so tell me I can come out. And Jesus says one word. Come. Now, I don't know about you, but I've been on a big fishing boat, and I've had to climb up to get on the dock, not climb up to get on the water, and I'll tell you what, I'd probably be a little more hold on to the edge, getting one leg over. Yeah, that's water. Hold myself up, get the other foot out there. Yeah, that's still water. Okay, Jesus, I'm coming. No, I don't think that's how Peter did it. I'm sure Peter would say, I can come out, say, I can come out, come on. Just say, I can come out. Squirrel. Say, I can come out, say, I can come out. And as soon as Jesus said, come, boom, he jumped over the side, down on the water, and he's out there. He's like, hey, I'm walking on water. Now, don't think the water was calm. Because it wasn't. It was still storming. The waves were still surging. The water was coming. The rain and the wind, all of it was coming. But Peter was now walking on water with Christ. We have those times in life where we're walking on water. Life is good. Life is good. Family is good. Work is good. Everything's good. But then what happens when those waves start coming up? Oh, my soul. The end is near. The world's coming to an end. Look at these waves and these storms around me. And then especially when we get together and say, yeah, but you don't understand the storms that I see. Yeah, we get comparing the storms instead of comparing the peacemaker, the one who calms the storms. So Peter steps out of the boat and gets on these rough, rocky waters, and he's going to do what? He's going to look around. You're seeing Jesus, but man, you're standing on the water. You're going to look around, but the only problem is now when you look around, your focus is no longer on Jesus. Now you see these big waves coming up over here. You see the big waves over here. You see the disciples in the boat tossing their cookies. But you're the one out there on the water. You start to get scared. Reality sets in. Something happened to my job. I'm losing part of my income. Something's happened to a family member. Someone's gotten sick. The storm's come. What am I going to do now? Just like Peter. So as Peter was on the water and focusing on the things around him instead of Christ, what did he do? He started to sink. Started going down. As many of us can do if our focus isn't on Him. I'm sorry, I'm moving away from the camera. I'm making it tough, aren't I? I'll do what my mother said. Stay there and hold the pulpit. I started when I was 15. First criticism my mother gave when I first preached was walked around too much.
I'm used to Rachel doing that, but...
Oh, okay then. Well, I've been fighting not coming right down around here, so I've been trying to be a good boy. Okay, I might take that invitation. So here it is, the storms are coming, Peter's looking down the water, he's sinking down in, and he says, Jesus, save me! Now, we live in a Christian country, don't we? At least it seems to be, by label we are, because when we come in times of trouble, we turn to God, or when we need someone to blame for a tragedy, we turn to God. The only problem is God wants us all the time. It's kind of like calling my mother. My mother doesn't want me to call when there's problems. She wants me to call when things are good too. So here Peter is in trouble, sinking faster than could be. What do I do? At least he called up to Christ. Jesus, save me. Save me. Now I like the word in verse 31, the second word in. It doesn't say after some contemplation, after some time, after some postulation and consideration, not after texting somebody to check and see if it's okay with my friends, or going through my email or my schedule or anything else. Jesus uses this one big word, not actually this word, he used the Greek, but immediately. Immediately. Peter cries out for help, and immediately Jesus stretched out his hand and caught him. Not later on, not sometime, immediately. You see, that's where Christ is. He is within immediate distance of us at all times. We tend to get away from Him. He does not get away from us. When Peter cried out, Jesus was there, took him by the hand, pulled him out of the water, got him on top, and they got in the boat, and then what happened? Then the water was calm. The lesson for Peter and the other disciples wasn't to walk on calm water. We're going to have the storms. We've been through the storms. We need to walk on the water through the storms, not just through the calm. Through all times of life and through all the challenges. So he says, oh, you of little faith, why did you doubt? Now don't forget, this same Jesus that picks Peter up out of the water and puts him on top to walk and gets him in the boat is the same Jesus that knew that same Peter was going to 3 times deny him. You will deny me 3 times. You will say you don't even know me 3 times. Jesus already knows that. But he was already still right there to pick him up. Now, part of the reason I think possibly for that is just because of the compassion and love that Jesus had for his disciples and they had for him. But he also knew Peter was going to be hard on himself when this time comes that he denies Christ. So I think there's a little preparation in there. Jesus let him know, listen, your faith may be weak at times and falter. I still love you. You may deny me 3 times, but I still love you, and I will build my church on you. I will build my church on you. God takes failures and makes them into masterpieces. Makes them into masterpieces. Oh, what God can do with time and to bring us closer to Him. We're reminded of one of my favorite stories. It talks about how close we are with God in proximity, when we need Him, when we just need to be close to Him, when things are good as well. Reminded of Harold and Winnie driving down the road in their truck. And it's funny, they tell the old story about putting down the road. They're in their 90s now, and Harold's looking over at Winnie, and Winnie's looking over at Harold. And finally, Winnie says to Harold, Harold, remember when we were younger, we used to sit close by each other in the truck drive, and now we go for these Sunday rides? Yes, Winnie, I remember. Remember, Harold, I used to put your arm around me, or sometimes just put your hand on my knee, we'd drive, we'd go for ice cream or something, just have a nice little country drive. Yeah. Remember, we would just sit so close, it was so nice and romantic. Yes, Winnie, I remember. And when he looks at it and says, well, what happened? Harold just says, I never moved. Jesus never moves. We slide over and see from Him. He's still there. He's still driving. He's still directing. It's just whether or not we're sitting very close to Him in the car and know He's there or not. Peter faltered, Lord, where are you? I'm sinking. Oh, Peter, I'm right here. Come on. I'm going to build my church on you. On me? Yes. On you, Peter. On you. Sometimes in life, the hardest part is getting on the boat. Sometimes it's getting through the rocky waters. Sometimes it's just staying true to Him or following Him or listening or paying attention to Him. But no matter how terrible the storm gets, no matter how rocky the road might seem, God is always faithful, always driving, and always right there. Olive Wyman, in her book, Consider Him. She was talking about St. Francis of Sales. She was talking about him telling a story about a servant going across the farmstead to get water and drawing water up from the well in the big wooden buckets and taking it back to the home. And when she pulled that big bucket out of the well, she'd set it on the edge and she'd put a block of wood in it. And she'd draw water for another one, get that pail out, and put a piece of wood in that bucket, and then she'd grab them by the ropes and carry those 2 buckets to the house. And when asked the servant, why do you put the sticks of wood? Why do you put those flat pieces of wood in the buckets? Why? We're going to test age here. Why do you put wood in the pail when you're carrying water? Because it steadies the water. Keeps it from slopping out the sides. The wood gives it a baffle. Gives it something to knock against so it won't slop out of buckets. And so it was he that said, we too in our lives need the cross of Christ to keep us settled, to keep us from falling in the bucket, to keep us from going off the path. So Peter got out of the boat, and he got all the water, he got going with it all, he was hanging with them all and doing it all. It was great, it was fantastic, and spiritually he was going and doing. But the lesson in it is this: it's not just the fact about when Jesus says, come on out in the water and do it. It's not just about taking that time with God to be by yourself, but sometimes it really is the challenge of getting out of the boat. Now, so often we can focus on Peter getting out of the boat. We think, man, that Peter, he got out of the boat, and look at him. He failed. He sank in the water. He went down. Peter. Yep. But you know what I look at? Peter got out of the boat. How many disciples were there? What were the other 11 doing? Staying in the boat. Peter was the impulsive. Peter was the act on the moment's notice. Draw your sword, jump out of the boat, whatever the case may be. I don't know what the spiritual state of the other 11. It doesn't really talk about it in here. But all I know is the other 11 didn't get out of the boat. I would think I would have faith enough that if Peter got out and walked on water, that I would have at least by that time pushing and bustling my way to the edge of the boat so I can get out and get a turn too. But they weren't. They waited in the boat. Sometimes it's easy to just sit and be comfy. Sometimes even in the storms, just sit, be comfy, and just wait and see what happens. When really God's just saying, get out of the boat. I'm not telling you to walk from here to Perth. Just telling you to get out of the boat. It's kind of like the whole scripture. He'll be a lamp unto your feet and a light unto your path. He doesn't say he'll be a 2-mile lighthouse beacon showing way down the next 20 years of your life. He says, I'll give you the next steps. Because sometimes if we could see way down the road, we'd turn around and run back the other way. We would. If you knew where you were now, 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 30, 40 years ago, you might make a couple changes. Right? I don't need any amends. I'm done. Change that direction. He says, I will give you a lamp so So when you walk, you won't stub your toe. You won't fall in a hole. You won't twist your ankle. I may not let you see that far down the road yet, because I just need you to take that next step. Get out of the boat. Do you think Jesus is going to say, okay, come on, get out of the boat now, go to Galilee, go to Capernaum? No, he just wanted him to get out. It's the object lesson of it all. To believe, to have faith, and to do. That really is the challenge, to be obedient. There's many things in life that is hard to be obedient about. I know we have the 10 Commandments. Some people take them as the 10 suggestions, but they're given as 10 Commandments. I know there's a lot of other instructions given in the Old Testament, the New Testament. It doesn't matter if you're talking about healing. It doesn't matter if you're talking about how services should be run. It doesn't matter if you're talking about tithes and offerings and gifts for God and His church. That's one that people get their toes stepped on all the time. And people talk about tithing and stuff like that. That's one of those things that God tells us to test Him in. In Malachi, He says, test me in this. Now, how often does God say, test me? Test me and try it. See if you can outgive me. But he says in Malachi, he says, if you give to God what he asks, and you give it to him, he will outgive you. But how many people test it? He says, test me. Try me. I dare you. And people fail to do it. Now what about everything else? What about everything else? Now I'm not here to give you a tithing message or anything like that. That's just a little soapbox I got on the hang of it. But the truth is, it's easy to take what we want and leave what we don't. When God says, my word is infallible and complete and totally accurate. I just need you to follow me. And when I say, come, I need you to get out of the boat. He may not tell us where exactly we're going or what all we're going to have to do. But if we get out of the boat, guaranteed, sink or swim, he will be right there for you immediately. Immediately. Does it mean all the problems go away, all the ill wills go away, all the difficulties go away? Dude, no. But I'll tell you what, I'll take any challenge with God over going it myself any day. Because one thing that he's always proven is that he's faithful. He is always faithful. So when God calls you to get on the boat, what are you going to do? Are we going to sit there with the other 11 disciples and, that's okay, let's put Peter to it. We can all send the Peters out. We can always send the preacher out. We can always send whoever out. But the question is, if we're all disciples, are we all going to stay in the boat? Or is someone's going to get out with Peter? No matter what difficulty, no matter what challenge, no matter what trial comes your way, God is faithful. He was always faithful. And always will be faithful. And if you have the guts and the courage to get out of the boat, when he says, come on, get out of the boat, life will never be the same. Peter's life was never the same. And he still went through plenty of failures and climbed many mountains. And God built his church on him. A man who failed and faltered. But he still got out of the boat. He still got out of the boat. Father, I do thank you for this day. I do thank you for this time. I thank you for the word and the truth that is found in it. I hope that through our time of sharing here this morning, as you have spoken to me, that hopefully you've spoken to others here this morning. And it is a challenge. Father, I am preaching to myself. And so, Lord, I pray that you help me, help all of us in our journeys each and every day. Do not just count too quickly and let time go by. Take time, get on the mountain with you and pray and listen. And when the storms of life come, help us to still be able to walk in the water, knowing that we may sink, but you are right there to help us out. We thank you for your presence, for your grace, and for your strength. Help these words not to depart from our hearts, make an impact in our lives.